There we go. So the types of projects that the Restore and Creation Loan Program will cover. Solar panels is a big one that we do. We also do high efficiency heating and cooling systems. Say you need to replace your HVAC. Pretty much any new HVAC will qualify for this program because it will be more efficient than what you previously had. I about can guarantee that. So many of our Presbyterian churches have very old heating and air conditioning systems. So if you are trying to get a new system, look to us for that discounted energy efficiency loan. We also will cover things like insulation, roofing systems. There are high energy efficient roofing systems. We also will do energy efficient lighting systems. We have done a lot of these types of loans for many of our churches. If nothing else, they can improve their lighting systems, which actually can get rather costly. So with this loan program, we can help you out there. Since we began in 2015, we have dispersed over $12 million in Restore and Creation loans, jointly between the Endowed Loan Program and the Investor Program through this special energy savings loan. So I want to talk about some of the advantages. I'm going to try to change my, All right, so some of the advantages of this program with the Restore and Creation Loan Program, the first $300,000 that you come to us for would come through this endowed program. But you can actually get another $300,000 through the investor program. So you can get up to $600,000 in loan funds at this discounted rate, just depending on the size of your project. So the rate is 1% below the base rate of each of the two loan programs. Again, not too long ago, that was at 2%, but right now that base rate is 4.75%. And again, there's these lower equity requirements. With the traditional loan program, we'll finance up to 80%. With this program, we'll do 90%. Also, we offer flexible loan terms. We'll work with the church. If you can show us how the project is going to save you energy costs, that savings may provide a portion of the loan payments. We will do a Restore and Creation loan as part of a larger project. Say you're doing a renovation of your fellowship hall. All of that would not come necessarily under Restore and Creation, but a portion if you're doing new HVAC, if you're putting in energy efficient windows, if you're putting in energy efficient lighting, we'll pull out all those pieces and give that part at a discounted rate. So for example, say you were coming to us $200,000 loan, and say in this scenario, $100,000 was for a parking lot, and that would be at the 5.75 rate. And the other 4%, 4.75, we could attribute to say like HVAC or solar panels or whatever. In that case, for that $200,000 loan, you would get a blended rate of 5.25%. So it really does help lower that overall loan interest rate. The next slide. So I do want to hear from you all in terms of your questions, but before we go to that, I wanted to go over some of the questions that I get kind of all the time with this program, and maybe it would be helpful just for you to know, okay, we're going to do an energy savings project, we don't have all the funds, we need some outside funding. How do we go about getting this financing? Well, the first step is to get the application, and you can contact me. There's my email address and my phone number, or it's very easy to also get it via our website. This morning, as a matter of fact, I Googled Restore and Creation loan, And I couldn't believe it. It took me right to Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program. So, or you can Google Presbyterian Investment and Loan Program, or internet search Investment and Loan Program. You'll get to us and you can quickly get to the loan application. But please feel free to contact me regardless of where you are located, and I can help you get that application. A very important second part of working with our program is also working with your presbytery. Every loan that we do, regardless of size, has to be guaranteed by the presbytery where the church is geographically located. That's a whole book of order thing, and that's how it works. That connectionalism that we talk about so much in the denomination comes into play here. We're very small. We're only about 13 people across the whole United States. We only have 2 field reps. Very hard to see what all is going on. So we do rely on the presbytery to help us see if this is the right move for a church. Obviously, for a really small loan, it's not as consequential. When we get into larger projects, we really do like that feedback from the presbytery, and again, the guarantee. The guarantee does not need to be in place when you apply. We will contact the presbytery, we will work with you. I primarily let you know this because there's time involved. It's not unusual for a loan that's being guaranteed by the presbytery to actually take that to the floor of a presbytery meeting. Some of our presbytery meetings, 4 times a year. So you need to kind of time that. In terms of how long does it take to close the loan, it can take between 2 and 3 months, depending on the size. From the time we receive that application to actually getting the loan funding, figure on 2 to 3 months. And some of that is dependent on the presbytery, it's dependent on the size of the loan. So it varies, but really a couple of months. I really like to make that point. I get so many calls where we're looking for some funding and we need it in a couple of weeks, and folks, it just doesn't work that way. So I wouldn't want you to think it does, because it doesn't. It takes some time. We're Presbyterian. We know how things go. So just heads up on that. In terms of the term on the loan term, 100,000 and over, we'll do it for 20 years. There is no prepayment penalty. If you pay off early, great. The term is smaller for a loan, say 50,000 to 100,000. That term would be 15 years. Again, no prepayment penalty. And then 50,000 below, the term is 10 years. That is critical. I often get calls, we've got this all worked out, we understand we have 20 years to pay, and say it's only 20,000. We can't stretch it out over 20 years. We can stretch it out for something of 20,000 to be 10 years. I say 20,000, I'm finding a lot of the solar panel projects, that's about what they are, 20,000 or less. And so just know it's a 10-year term, but certainly can pay it off early. Also, I want you to know that we provide free consulting in terms of you want to do the project, but you just don't know, can we afford it? We can help you work the numbers and figure out how much you can afford. And this goes for any type of project that you may do. We often find churches haven't gone to the denomination for financing. They really don't know whether or not they can afford something. We'll help you look at your financials, figure out what the project is. Certainly with energy savings, again, it may be that you'll save on your energy saving cost enough to cover the loan payments, but we can help you figure that out. If you have folks in the church that are helping you do all that, wonderful, but just know we do have that available. Do we have any questions in the chat at all?
Not at this point.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. Oh, we had some discussions in the chat. It was all logistical.
Oh, logistical. Okay.
But I have a question along the lines of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Under the new Inflation Reduction Act,
yeah,
there's the opportunity for direct pay, and the new opportunities with faith-based and other nonprofit institutions. How are you working with that in terms of your loans and the paybacks from IRA?
Great question. And we have been finding that. I was just working with a church in Charlotte that was getting some loan funds from us for solar panels, and they were going to be getting some money back through the program. And they wanted to know, well, that's going to change our the amount of funding that we need, but we have to finish the project. Exactly. So a feature of our program, and this is for any project that we do, if you have a portion of funds that you can use to pay down that loan, we'll re-amortize the loan at your request. So it doesn't change the term. You're still at that same 10 years. Say you have 9 years left. We'll spread it out over the 9 years. It's the same loan interest rate, but it would reduce your loan payment. In the particular case that I'm thinking of, well, one of the cases I'm thinking of, when we came back to them and they said, gee, we've got this lump sum we could give you and we want to re-amortize our payments, and we told them what the lower payments was, and they said, you know what, we're going to stick with the higher payments, and we want to get this loan paid off as soon as we can. And that's great too, however you want to do it. Whenever you give us money additional to your monthly loan payment, that goes right to principal. So you're reducing the time left on your loan, but we actually can re-amortize it upon request. So that's how we're working with that situation. We're finding that they often have to finish the project. It's got to be all done before they can get the money back. Is there a question there on, I can't see it.
Do we have any questions online? Oh, here we go. Could we just pay it, could we just pay it on the loan and get it paid sooner without penalty?
Yeah, exactly. You can. And that is a nice benefit of our program. Often the banks won't let you pay off early, and they're not really interested in re-advertising either. So we're easy to work with in terms of really trying to get you the best deal, get it paid off. And some of our churches are coming to us and saying, you know, it's now that we're trying to finance just the 90%, we've come up with the 10%, and we've done fundraising. You know what? We don't even need a loan. That's the best news, really. If you don't even need a loan, that's great. That's great. But we're here if you do need a loan. You probably do want to go to your congregation and do fundraising. That's how the bulk of these projects. With the solar panels, yeah, it does affect your energy savings, and maybe you can figure out how that's going to make the loan payments. For larger things, and new HVAC, that's a few $100,000. So you're going to need to do some fundraising. Most churches, they just don't have that excess in their operating budget. You just, you know, we're kind of all just operating, if we're hopefully operating in the black, but just barely. And then when you start thinking about loan payments, yeah, 99.9% of the churches that we have loans with, they're doing capital campaigns, some type of fundraising. For the very large projects, yeah, that probably will require actually getting an outside fundraiser. When you're raising like $1 million and say a portion of it is for HVAC, we really go to an outside fundraiser. There's lots of, well, there's 2 or 3 great ones that we can help you be in touch with. We do find that the professionally run capital campaigns for these larger projects, they take in about double what you can do on an internal campaign. You know, it's just so different, somebody from the outside coming in and looking at it and making that ask. It's just a whole different dynamic. So that is something we recommend on larger projects.
How large would you say is a larger project?
That over 100,000.
Okay.
The payments are such. Another aspect of our program, somebody asked me this at dinner the other night, it came out, that, gee, we came to you and the presbytery was a little concerned about doing the guarantee, but as long as we kept it at 100,000 or less, they were fine. And the reason, part of that was, we can do the loan unsecured, more like a promissory note. If you keep it under 100,000, once it goes over 100,000, it does have to be secured by your property. And often the presbytery's name is on the title, and that's how they're very involved. So, you know, depending on what's happening with your presbytery, they might like you keeping it under 100,000. That can come up.
Another question, these loans are variable rate, at least I think so. How often do you recalculate the interest rate?
Oh, great question, yeah. As long as you stay in that endowed program, that first 300,000 that I was talking about with the Restoring Creation Loan Program, that would reprice every 5 years. In terms of our traditional loan program with that endowed loan program, I'm not talking Restoring Creation, you can get up to 550,000 through that endowed loan program. And again, it reprices every 5 years. When you start getting beyond that, you need funds from the investor program, and it becomes an investor loan with a participation with the endowment program. That reprices every 3 years. The investor program, as I said, is funded by an investment. It's a term note, it's very similar to a CD. As you can imagine, the return on CD type instruments right now is higher than it was a couple of years ago. To retain our investors and to get more investors, we've had to raise the return on that investment. That impacts our loan interest rate. So like right now though, the good news, like if you were to invest with us, we're able to offer that at 4%. There's a 15-month note that we're offering right now at 4%. But that's what we're having to do just to retain those who are investing with us and to bring in more investments. As you might imagine, our program is doing really well right now. So many of the churches who are calling us are saying, you know, I'm talking to the bank and they just don't really want to work with us, which is different than I would say 5-10 years ago. We didn't hear that so much, but right now, not that much is coming from the banks. So they're all coming to us. So we're getting lots and lots of loan applications, which is great, but we need to retain those investor funds and get more so we can do the large size projects. But that's why our interest rate is not like, we couldn't give you an interest rate and hold it there for 20 years. The world is just changing so quickly, but we can lock it in again, up to 550,000 with our endowed program locked in for 5 years.
Right.
And many of our churches pay off within that 5 years.
So you're over the 550, does the entire loan get recalculated every 3 years? Or is it just a portion over 550?
So as soon as you go over 550 and it becomes an investor loan,
the whole thing,
that is considered an investor loan. You would get that at the blended rate, but it would reprice every 3 years.
The whole thing.
Yes, the whole thing. But the breakout of how much is that the endowed rate and how much is that the investor rate or how much is that the energy efficient, that calculation will remain in place for the length of the loan. So when it does reprice, you know, that, like say 20% was at the discounted energy saving, it would continue to be discounted at whatever our energy savings rate is at that time. If that makes sense.
Would you say that what percentage of the loan applications you get from congregations is basically for solar projects?
What percentage? I'm not going to say it's really high. 10-15%. The bulk of our loans are not for solar panels, I would say.
Is that right?
Not the bulk of our loans, no. And we are doing so many of these energy savings. Right now, I found during the pandemic, frankly, solar panels kind of had to get a little bit lower on the priority list. Everybody was just trying to hang on. Interestingly enough, during the pandemic, we did, just like in 2020, we did the same amount of loans that we did in 2019. They were for smaller projects. But because buildings were closed, many churches felt, hey, this is a great time to do some type of renovation that we've been hoping to do, but we couldn't figure out how we're going to do it and have church. Hey, we'll do it now.
Yeah.
They weren't huge projects, and there really weren't many solar panels at that time, which just makes sense. But now I'm seeing people, everyone thinks getting a little bit more normalized and, oh, we wanted to do solar panels. And I've had a couple churches just in the last few weeks call me, say, yeah, we're moving forward now with the solar panels. Everything's kind of good here and we know what's happening.
With the new IRA money coming on and all of these changes, are you going out and re-promoting your program with churches? To sort of say,
Yes,
hey-
I'm here today.
Yeah.
This is it, yeah. We are trying to talk more about it again, yeah. And when we're at Presbytery meetings and doing presentations, we always bring up about the discounted energy savings and frankly, the accessibility too. Those are the two that really make a difference in terms of these building projects, so, yes. So I don't know if we have anything else. Probably finished way early, but I don't know what else to say at this point.
I don't see anything on the online yet. What about with the other thing that is getting a lot of funding through the IRA are heat pumps for HVAC systems as well as heat pumps for water heaters. And I'm wondering if you're starting to see action on that front.
Well, I have done some of those even before.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely those, and that would definitely fall under this. And I'll also say that even, I had some things listed there. Sometimes we have things we hadn't even thought about that were energy, but when the application comes in and the underwriter's looking at it, and once we see the contract, and oh my goodness, yeah, this would fit beautifully. I had a church in New Jersey call me last week who were saying, we have an oil tank, New Jersey, those oil tanks, and but we haven't had any other alternative. In our little community, gas lines are coming in, and I know that some people don't like that, but for them, it's gonna be a big cost savings to go to gas. It's gonna cost us $60,000 to make that change. Would that qualify for the energy saving? Yes, absolutely. We don't have that listed anywhere. But that would be the kind of thing that, as it's coming up and being approached to, yes, we will definitely work with you on that. We really just want to help you get the best deal. And I think the denominations thought when this started in 2015, yeah, churches want to do this, but they can't quite figure out how to do it financially. How could we offer a lower interest rate and discount that loan? So it really was the denomination, the Board of Pensions, Investment and Loan Program, and the foundation sitting down and figuring this out. So we really would love for you to take advantage of it if you can figure out how to do the project. And I know it takes so much organization to do any of these projects, but if you can do it, just think in terms of talking to us. We want you to find the best deal possible. We'll work the numbers, and then you can go take it back to the bank and say, this is what they're offering. What can you do for us, bank? Maybe the bank will help you. It makes a difference if there's bankers in your church, frankly. Some type of relationship there, but that's not always present.
So you're talking about the oil conversion. Does that even include the cost of taking the old oil tank out?
I think it will probably.
Wow, great.
Yeah.
We do have a question online. Talking about things you may not have thought of. Could we get loans for things like pollinator gardens?
A pollinator garden. That's a good one. So, typically we say our loan program is for building projects. I don't know, is that building project?
I mean, more broadly, it's sort of the thought of the grounds are very important,
Yeah.
would landscaping type projects be a portion?
Landscaping, I know
Yeah.
we do landscaping.
This is this
Yeah.
pollinator gardens are a type of landscaping,
Okay.
so.
Yeah. So when I get a question like this, I'm not exactly sure, we've never done that before, I'll take it back to our staff loan team and say, hey, this is what's come up. Is that something that, we never thought about that. Oh, yeah, well, sure. I would think, looking at it like landscaping, trying to improve the grounds. Often landscaping is a part of these large building projects.
Yeah.
They have to do landscaping, which is not inexpensive. Yeah, so that's a good question, yeah, I think it would.
Start a bedroom.
If a larger group was here, I was gonna hear about what energy saving projects you might be doing, and then I could let you know how we might work with you. I don't know if anybody online has projects that they are thinking about, but they're gonna need outside funding if they wanted to share about that, and maybe I could talk about how we'd work with you. You know, if you're at that point.
If anyone out there would like to unmute, we have a small enough group, you could unmute and tell us about your project or ask questions that way.
Yeah. There's a
That'd be great.
question about EV chargers.
Oh, here we go. How about loans for EV chargers? Electric vehicle chargers?
Yeah, I would think, I'm gonna just say yeah, because I would think that would fall under the energy savings. We haven't gotten one of those yet that I know of. It may have come in under a much bigger project, and I'm not aware of it, but yeah.
Well, I read somewhere that Mid-Kentucky Presbytery was encouraging all congregations, and they were actually gonna put money into putting charging stations in the parking lots of the churches. So,
Wow.
that would of course benefit their members, but maybe other people too, you know.
It can benefit the community,
Yeah.
especially if there are apartments nearby where people can't do their install chargers at home, they might be able to charge overnight in the lot. We do have one question here. Someone said, I think I remember the church gets a better rate if their members invest funds with PILP or something, some kind of bonus like that.
Yeah, well, that would apply if you're doing a large building project. Again, up to 550,000, it's gonna come through the endowed program. No investor funds are involved with the endowed program. But if you're doing a larger program, say you're coming to us for $100,000, let's see, what am I trying to say? $1 million. Say you're coming to us for $1 million, and we get 550,000 through that endowed program, no investment requirement. But the remaining part of the loan, yes, we will ask you to invest, and depending on how much you invest, you can get a discount on that investor rate, which right now 6.75. 5.75 for the discounted energy savings, but the base rate on the investor fund is 6.75. Depending on how much you invest, you can, we're just looking at the investor part of the loan. You don't have to invest for the entire loan amount, but for that investor part, you can get a discount up to 1 full point off, depending on how much you invest. And that really is an incentive that we have out there, again, to build up those investor funds. Again, we're getting lots of loan applications right now, and we're just trying to be sure that the next church will have the funds available for them. So we do ask churches that borrow through that investor fund to also invest, so that there'll be enough funds for the next church. That's probably one of the biggest ways that we continue to build that investment pool. So thank you very much for asking that.
Are there any other questions online? So I know you're asking for examples. So you know, our church does have an existing loan that we did for replacement of an HVAC system, and we did it exactly as you're talking about, to keep it under $100,000. You know, just to use some other funds just to buy it down.
So with
just
unsecured,
under as unsecured, made it simpler to handle, and that did make it a very easy process.
And I think you guys got that back when the loan interest rate was very low.
We did.
Yeah.
And we were happy to have it.
yeah, that was great. And you know, with one advantage of it repricing, in the past, what was happening, the loan would reprice at actually a lower interest rate because our interest rates were coming down. This is, you know, kind of strange times right now. Who knows what's going to happen? But we'd like to think things won't continue this way. Loan interest rates will start coming down. And when it reprices, if you're still with us, say in 5 years, you might get a lower interest rate. I mean, it's hard to say. But that's an advantage of the repricing. People tend to think, oh, no, I want to lock it in forever. Well, you know, do you really want to? Anything can happen now.
So another question, can PILP loans be used to refinance an existing loan that has come due?
Through the investor loan program, we can. With that smaller endowed program, we could not, but, in 1997, one of the reasons the denomination wanted to do this investor loan program was so that we could do refinancing. That other program, it goes back to like the 1870s, 1890s, and they didn't really have that concept of refinancing. And the other thing with the endowed program, that is just for churches.
Mhm.
So we will do loans through our larger investment and loan program, the investor loan program, to any Presbyterian entity. Say you have a preschool that's independent. We've got some Presbyterian camp colleges, camps and colleges that come to us for loans, and we can do that now. It all comes through the investor program, that endowed program, but I will say the majority of our loans are to churches. So we usually can take advantage of that endowed program. So, but we can't do the refinancing, and we have done lots of those in the last few years. I'm working with an entity right now. It's not a church. The bank has them at 10.75. Yeah. I don't think they really want the loan. They don't really want it. They're keeping it, but they don't really want, so they're gonna be coming with us and, so I know 6.75, that sounds high, but they're like, great, I mean, but that's a case of the bank, they'll do it,
Yeah.
but the loan interest rate's not so great.
Great. Any more questions online?
I guess we should say, we only have one person here in this workshop. In 2019, I was at the Stony Point Earth Care Conference, and we had lots of people, and we did lots of great tabletop discussions, and I think people are knowing about this program at this point.
Mhm.
So in a way, I'm not that surprised with this particular body of Earth Care people that they already know about the investment and loan program. But my contact information is there. If you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to be in touch with me. I'm happy to talk to you. But thank you for being here,
Thank
participating.
you.
Thank you. We're getting thank yous from online as well. So,
Okay. All right.
Most of the people are.
Yeah,
We're gonna leave.
great. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Catherine, I have a question though.
Is this off now or?
Were you asking her a question? Go ahead. Oh. Does PILT play a role in all of the